That was funny.
I was gonna say you're always thinking on the go. Is it Hendrickson?
Ready? Okay.
Ready?
Looks like we have solved all issues. We're ready to go. Welcome everyone to the Planning Commission for Santa Clara City, January 13th, 2022. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Ryan Anderson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here today. We're grateful for this great place we live in, for this opportunity we have to get together and discuss issues with the city. And we're so grateful for all our blessings and for the opportunities we have to live in this country and for the freedoms that we enjoy. Bless that we'll continue to do good things and we'll make this place a better place to live. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Ryan. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thank you, staff, for putting this together for us today. We actually have some people in the audience today. Many of you don't know, but that is a former chairman of this planning commission. Right there.
Yep,
Douglas
in the back.
P. Shaw. I don't know what his middle name is. Okay. Let's get right to this, shall we? What do you have for us this morning, this evening? Sorry.
Thanks, Chair Weston. First item on our agenda is a partially amended plat for properties at 1860 Red Mountain Drive and 1862 Red Mountain Drive, lots 5 and 6 of the Viewpoint subdivision. The applicant, Elizabeth Doty, is requesting to amend the plat. The subdivision includes a total of 13 lots. So the existing plat, they're proposing to amend lots 5 and 6. Currently lot 5, and we could scroll down to the subdivision plat. That would be.
I have one question.
Yes.
How does Elizabeth Doty make the application when she's deceased?
That's a great question. That's the application.
That was my first.
That's the name that was on the
That was my first
application.
reaction when I
That's
saw
it
that.
right there.
I went,
Yeah. So what I have is.
at her funeral. a few months ago.
Were you?
Yeah.
Commissioner Hendrickson, thank you. So the application said Elizabeth Doty, and then it says GED Family Limited Partnership. So I don't know if
Probably what it
that
should
must be
then.
it. So, and
I
that,
just,
yeah.
that was quite humorous.
It was, and that's a great question. So what they're looking to do is increase the lot size. So actually lot 5 would be decreased from 49,420 square feet to 46,780 and still 1.07 acres. Lot 6 is currently 28,035 square foot, and that would be increased to 30,675 square feet to be 0.70. Both lots have homes on them currently. What they're looking to do is amend the plat because of the driveway access on lot 6. So the lot up above, the most northernmost lot, part of the driveway for that lot is on the other lot. And so what they're looking to do is to do the plat amendment to move the lot line so the driveway on that property is completely on that lot. And I keep getting the lots mixed up, but so it would, the access to the home, the existing driveway and access to the home on lot 6 would be completely located within the boundary of the lot. Now, if you've driven by the property, it is for sale. And that's, I think they could have a pending sale on it. I'm not sure, but it's under contract. And it makes sense that that individual would want the driveway on his property or her property that they're looking to purchase. So that, in a nutshell, is why they're doing the amended plat, to clean up that property boundary, to get clear title and for sale purposes. By amending the plat, both lots will meet the area width and yard regulations as required by ordinance. Notices have been sent to property owners within the Viewpoint subdivision. Again, a total of 13 lots. We've not received any responses. We had reviewing departments look at it and did do a TRC meeting. The power department indicated that the public utility easements need to remain and are required. Public Works Department indicated that any public utility easement that's affected by the amendment needs to be relocated. And then we'd have a Mylar with signature blocks prior to recommendations. So the engineer has done that. He's here tonight. He's shifted those utility easements to run parallel with the new property line. We're compliant with state code. We did post the property. We did send notices out, but we've met all state code requirements. Based on that, planning staff recommends that the Santa Clara City Planning Commission recommend approval of the partial plat amendment for lots 5 and 6 of the Viewpoint subdivision to the city council, subject to the conditions in the staff report. We have just 2, so I'll read those quickly. That the applicant be required to comply with the recommendations from all city reviewing departments. And second, that the applicant be required to record the amended subdivision plat prior to the future sale of lot 6. Those are my comments for the Planning Commission. We have an applicant here and the project engineer here if Planning Commission has questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. All right. Let's go right to B on the public for the public hearing. Do we have any public here who would like to discuss this proposed amendment, plat amendment? Do we have anything online?
If you consider open the public hearing,
Okay,
or is that the next? We have nothing online.
okay. So that's no. All right. Mm,
I'm not sure what else I can add. It's pretty basic, just doing it for the practicality of the matter, you know.
Can you tell us our name?
Oh, sorry. Ryan Lay with Bush and Gudgel Engineers. We just moved it so that it, or I think originally the driveway was built because the family owned both parcels and it wasn't a big deal, but now that that potentially is going to change, just required a minor adjustment. It should meet all the setbacks and all of the requirements of the city. Shouldn't be a big deal. Happy to answer questions if I can.
Okay. I don't have any questions. This one's
It
pretty,
was so straightforward, and understandable. I didn't have any questions either. My only question I asked, so.
That was a good question because, yeah, that's the name that was on the application.
She was a very important woman in my family's life.
Okay.
My wife actually did her hair when she was buried.
Our city manager mentioned to me the other day that he remembers playing on that property in that house and the dinner bell would ring and he'd have to run home, you know, when it was not as developed as the area is now.
Well,
So,
This is another one for you that's kind of fun. That's where they used to have the Christmas tree burn.
oh,
Go back to some of the history of Santa Clara.
Wow.
That's where the Christmas tree burn was.
everybody in my family, everybody I know calls her Grandma Doty,
Yep.
just so you know.
So she's been to my daughter since they were born.
Mhm.
She's missed. We just have to close the public hearing, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
We looked and looked for people to protest at the public. We couldn't find any, so.
Yeah. Didn't get a call. No one
It's
came.
not hard to find them in Santa Clara sometimes.
All right. Excellent. Well, let's close this public hearing then and move straight to recommendations. What do you have for me?
I move that we recommend the city council that they approve the plat amendment of lots 5 and 6 with the direct and subject to the following conditions as stated by the planning staff. The applicant may be required to comply with recommendations from all city reviewing departments, sounds like they have, and the application be required to record the amended subdivision plat prior to the future sale of lot 6.
Second.
Okay. I've got a first from Mark,
I'll second it.
and a second from Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And me too. I
And
did
he-
a
she
second.
seconded it.
You did?
Oh, yeah. She whispers.
Looks
I
like
said-
James as
There's
well.
this black thing
James is
right
in
here.
too.
If you speak into that, I can.
I spoken.
Okay, really? I'm sorry, Shelley.
It's
I
okay.
apologize.
Sorry, what was that again? Mark Hendrickson first. Shall we for a second?
Did
Doesn't matter. Yeah, Shelley or Ron.
I? Okay,
We're just giving Mark a hard time because he
you're
can't.
giving me a hard time because I can't hear. Okay. That's the case. Let's continue on with our general business, number 2.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Weston. So we're bringing back accessory dwelling units tonight to make some changes to that part of the ordinance. As you'll recall, just a couple months ago, we came to you for the IADUs, the internal accessory dwelling units. We needed to get that adopted to meet state statute, House Bill 82, which we did. We got that done in October as we were required to do by statute. Now we're coming back to clean that section up. So we created section 1722 for IADUs. Actually, it was 1722-020 was the IADU ordinance and 1722-010 was definitions. So what we're proposing here is we are going to amend 1722-010, the new title, to add a definition for accessory dwelling unit. So that part of it's very simple. So you'll see the definition there. We have internal accessory dwelling unit and we have primary dwelling that were already identified in definitions. We're now including accessory dwelling unit. The second part of that is taking the accessory dwelling unit section that's currently in chapter 1764-060 modifying regulations, which is kind of a little bit in talking to the city attorney and others, kind of a little bit of a catch-all where we've put a lot of stuff in that section of code to address it. As you know, that was put in place a few years ago. So this amendment would take that title and, strike it and put that section under 1722-030 accessory dwellings or dwelling unit. So that part of it, I just wanted to make that clear. The second part of it is the discussions we've had. On December 9th, city staff had a discussion with the planning commission on this item. We talked about a discussion including allowing ADUs in a front yard, side yard, or rear yard if all primary setbacks could be met. We also discussed the difference between habitable space or habitable ADUs, accessory dwelling units, versus non-habitable space, such as a detached garage, barn, or other accessory building. We have taken the time to go take some pictures. We were asked to provide some photos and we wanted to do that. We got some pictures in Ivans and then out in the, oh my gosh, sorry, the morning started early today. Kayenta, yes, we did get one in Kayenta, but I also went out to Sun River and took some pictures in St. George. So, and then I wanted to let you know, we had this same discussion with the council on December 1st of 2021, about a week before we came to you. And a lot of the items and questions were very similar to what the planning commission had asked. If we have those photos, I'd like to go through those briefly, just to let you see some of what's out there. There we go. Oh, that came up real big. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So this is it Palisade, Cody, at Snow Canyon? Okay, so this is a community of large homes in Ivans. And the actual ADU is the structure you see in front of you. That's kind of a dark charcoal tile. I don't know the square footage. I would say it's good size. It seemed like it was 800 to 900 square feet in the front yard. And then what you see behind is the single family home directly behind it. If we go to the next slide, it might be a little bit better vantage where they can see both. And then if we can shrink it a little bit, there we go. And so you see the home, it's pretty large, pretty sprawling on that lot. You've got the home, you've got the flat roof, you've got a 3-car garage, and then you have this structure out in front, and it is an accessory dwelling unit, detached. I'm sure it's very modern. I mean, the exterior is very modern. I believe in this area, they have to keep the building heights down, with the single levels. But this was a good example. Let's go to the next slide. This is Kayenta. I thought this was a good example. You can see the home in the back and you can see the ADU in the front. There's living space and a garage. I would say the whole thing's maybe 750 square feet. It's got a 1-car garage, just kind of a guesstimate, but it fits in there. So that's another example. And if we could scroll down.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can we see the video on the Zoom meeting? I can't see what you guys are seeing.
Oh, okay. What do we do so James can see it?
If it's a big problem, don't worry about it, but
You're not seeing the images. I'm sorry.
no worries.
Maybe if we do share screen here, do you see it now? I can't hear you, James. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
It now?
Yep, that looks good. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back one just so he can see the Cayento one. That's it right there. So the accessory dwelling unit is in front of the home and then the home's in the back.
Okay, thank you.
The second one, the first one was quite a bit larger. Let's just scroll up to that real quick. That one right there. And you can see the dark color tile style building, very modern. That's the ADU. And then if we can scroll back down, here we go. This is an example of one in Ivins in just kind of a rural area. You've got a home and then you've got the little SUV there. And then there's an ADU kind of to the side of it, behind it, probably about 800 square feet or so. And that's been there for quite some time in that community. Now I want to show you some photos from Sun River that I took earlier this week. Here we go in Sun River. Sorry about my rear view mirror, but I was catching some looks. It was a nice sunny day and everybody was wondering why I kept stopping to take pictures. I got out a couple times, but a couple times I didn't. Here we go. We've got a casita or an ADU in a front yard. This one is detached. So you'll see here in Sun River, some are detached and some are attached to the home with a roof line and kind of a portico or covered patio. I would say this is 400 to 500 square feet. They're not huge. They look to be about 20 by 20 or 20 by 25 out there in Sun River, but I was amazed at how many there are. There's quite a number. Scroll down one more. Here's another one. This one's detached as well, and you can see the courtyard connecting the two, but that one has its own, entry and it's detached from the home. It fits in pretty nice on that lot. Next slide. Here's another one, very similar. This one is actually connected by the roof line, but I'm not going to walk up and look at their property, but there is a connection by roof line, but this ADU is clearly separate from the existing home there. There's an aisle around the back or an opening. Next slide.
Open to a courtyard.
This is also one that's attached. It's hard to see, but underneath the entry or portico right there. So yeah, that window right there is an open door. That's a door that opens. It's not just a window. And then the entry or portico there, if you walk through there and look to the side, it's a clear space. It's completely open. So it's connected by roof line, but that unit itself is not connected. There's not an interior connection. So that's another example of one. And I think I might have one more. Oh, two more.
Really?
And then this one's detached and it's kind of to the side or back of the home. This is a corner lot. And so this one's kind of sitting in the back, very close to the rear wall line of that home. And the ones in Sun River, because the lots are a little bit smaller, they look to be in that 400 to 500 square foot range, but there's a number of these. And one more. So they actually have a secured door there that's see-through, kind of a gate. And if you were to walk around, this one is attached by roof line, but not an interior connection. This is a casita or ADU as well. So these are the pictures I took. I just have 10 slides. Hopefully that helps the Planning Commission kind of understand what we're looking at here when we say an ADU could be placed in a front yard, a side yard, or a rear yard. And that's the conversation that we had during our last meeting on December 9th. So at this point, I would say, we've met state code requirements. We've noticed this. We've met the state requirement or statute, and the planning staff recommends that the Santa Clara City Planning Commission hold a public hearing on this item. So we do need to open it up. and forward a recommendation of approval for this ordinance, amendment to the city council. Now, you have the ordinance in front of you, a working copy and a clean copy. And so we can, you can open it up and see if there's any discussion, and we can talk about the proposed ordinance, however the planning commission would like to do it. Thank you.
So moving forward, we would need to do a full public hearing
Yes.
on the amendment.
Yeah, on this code amendment, like a zoning amendment, that does require a public hearing. So whether we have public here or not, I don't know, but we would need to open it and then close it if we don't.
Today.
Yeah, and then forward a recommendation to the council. There was, and I don't know, Marv Wilson did submit an email earlier in the
20-foot
week.
Height, asking about the 20-foot height.
Yeah, he was wondering about the height for a detached garage, or I'm sorry, a detached ADU. We suggested limiting it to 20 feet. The idea is that the ADU is secondary, or, it's an accessory dwelling unit. It's accessory to the primary, and the primary dwelling on the lot is the home. And a lot of homes are ramblers and other homes are 2 stories. Our concern is, and I've seen this in other places, in places where I've worked, someone may have a rambler that only is 18 or 20 feet tall, and then they build this in the backyard and it's 30 feet tall or 35 feet tall, and you see it protruding over the top of the home, and it just looks out of place or out of scale. So that's our concern, keeping that height down. A garage, Cody, I mean, what are we looking at for a height of the ceiling? About 10 feet? For a garage, it depends. If they were to do a detached with a garage and a dwelling up above, could it fit in 20 feet? Okay.
You're
Yeah,
gonna be I would figure you'd be 2 to 4 feet shy.
yeah. And so I was thinking if the planning commission wanted to recommend a slight change, maybe we go with 24 feet and split the difference. If you felt, that would allow for someone to have the garage space and a dwelling above. The concern is, again, keeping that height down because it is a secondary use. It's not the primary use, because chances are someone's got the house and a 3-car garage, and then they're going to put this in the back and do a dwelling. I think most will be the standard ADU. They're going to use it as a dwelling and living space rather than the garage with living space above.
So, can I ask a question now? Or
Yeah.
Wait till the.
No.
So as I thought back about that after reading Marv's thing, you remember when we looked at Chad Gates'
Uh-huh.
deal, and what we ended up doing there was just granting a variance.
Mhm.
So if we stuck
Okay.
with the 20
Yeah,
and kept it so that because it is an accessory dwelling. It
It is.
not intended, the way I understand it,
right,
to be an independent. It's an accessory dwelling. It's not an
Correct.
independent facility.
right.
So in the case where, for an example, the actual lot line was where he was building the garage was 4 feet or 6 feet
Mhm.
lower,
Lower.
right? And so at the end of the day, it all ended up being the same height,
Right.
but it still needed to be he needed to get a variance
Right.
zoning variance, because it was actually higher than the standard garage.
And in that case,
So that
yeah,
was an exception. So I
Right.
think that would be the best
Okay.
way to do it, is leave it at 20 feet, in my
Sure.
opinion.
okay,
Because we do have the option that you can get request a zoning variance or a conditional use or whatever it
right.
might be according to the
Right.
need for the property.
Yeah, and they would have to come in and request a variance and show a
'Cause this
hardship,
would
show a
be-
hardship and,
That thing.
right.
So
yeah,
for example, out to Kayenta, I've got
right.
a close friend and my business partner that I've recently built out there.
Uh-huh.
It's limited right to the exact height of that.
Yes,
So,
yes,
the intent that you're voicing
Yes.
is similar when you look at the pictures, especially the ones in Sun River.
yeah,
They can't be more than the top of which is 20 feet. or
Correct.
something like that.
yeah. And I thought the whole idea of, again, and it's an older term, but it's the Fonzie flat idea, right? To me, that's a garage that's attached to the house, and they've got space up above, right? They're going up and down.
Mhm.
And that's great, right? Because it's part of it's part of the home, the primary dwelling
Right.
unit. To do that behind a home seems a little bit out of scale, but we could look at it if someone had a specific
Well,
hardship.
they're out here in there's several
Yeah.
of them in Santa Clara.
Yes.
I'll drive to right now.
Right.
I mean,
And we're aware of that. We're just trying to limit it.
this really helps. in my
Yeah.
view.
Okay. Okay.
But I was
Yeah.
glad Marv asked that question.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. I didn't know
Yeah.
if anybody else had.
Yeah.
That's why Mark's so good at this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
He'll be here at the next meeting, but it will be his last in February.
Yeah,
He'll be moving on.
Quite worried about that.
Yeah. Any other questions of planning commission, Ryan?
I had a
Commissioner
question I was reading through it and it said
Mhm.
something about the number of people in the accessory dwelling unit couldn't exceed the standard, but I didn't see is there an actual number?
No, and this is the language we used with Mad Ants for the IADU. So we duplicated the language here. It just, let me find that real quick. The total number of residents that reside in an ADU may not exceed the number allowed for a single family dwelling. And so that's,
What is that number?
well,
Or is there one?
it's tough to get in there because of the federal requirements on the definition of family. It's 4. You know, typically, well, it is and it isn't. So with the definition of family, someone can rent a house to 4 unrelated individuals, or perhaps a couple in their, or a standard couple and their children. So it's kind of touch and go. We have to be careful with it and how we interpret the definition. But basically, you know, if someone lives here and it's a husband and wife with 2 kids, that's fine. Or, you know, if they want to rent it to some related individuals, but you know, they can't be outside of what's required or allowed there, the allowance.
I knew
Yeah.
about the 4 unrelated people. I just didn't know if there was an actual number that, you know, because if there's a family, you can't
Yeah.
really limit that, but
You can't, yeah, I mean,
It'd be impossible to interpret,
Yeah.
you can't.
yeah,
especially in our
Yeah.
world today.
yeah. And the thing that we're doing here, like we did with the IADU, which makes perfect sense. If I own a property and I decide, hey, I'm gonna build a nice casita, and it's gonna be 1,000 square feet, and I'm good. The house is 2,500 square feet. I'll just rent that to a family. They can do that. They can live in the ADU and rent it has to be owner occupied. You either live in the ADU, the IADU, which we talked about before, or the house. So there's some flexibility there. So,
Mhm.
and believe it, I've seen some people do that. They make a new portion of the house nicer than the rest of the house and live there. So
Another question I thought of, is there any requirement for off-street parking for
there is.
There was one
Parking, and that is what we're allowed to do as per the statute, the House Bill 82. At first, they didn't have it in there, and the cities pushed back and they said, you know, a lot of times we've had a 1 car parking on site for a 1-bedroom unit and 2 for a 2-bedroom unit. They initially said no parking required, and then they came back and said, okay, 1 parking space, but that's all we're going to allow you to require. So, which is nice. I mean, it gets the car off the street. I think this is going to be a lot more user friendly to have this title and section where we have the definitions, the IADU and the ADU, not where it's a little bit harder to find right now. So any other questions by commissioners at this time?
was there any more? I didn't read through this as well as I should have. Did they talk about the setbacks as far as in the backyard?
Yeah, what we talk about here is an ADU may be in a front, side, or rear yard if it meets all primary dwelling setback requirements.
Right.
So, you know, if a front's 25, it's 25. If the side's 8, it's 8. If the rear's 10, it's 10. So it just has to meet the same setbacks.
It's a section, yeah.
And if it's not ADU, if it's a detached garage, it still can have those limited setbacks.
Yeah, the detached garage is
If
different.
it's non-habitable space.
Right,
5
right.
feet.
5 feet. Correct.
But you can't live in it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. So when you say that we need to have a public hearing on this,
We just need to open it up to any public that may want to speak to it here or on the Zoom call.
okay, we don't have to advertise that one?
We did advertise
We
it.
did it. Okay.
Yes,
I just-
yes, it's been advertised. It's on the state website. We've met state code criteria.
Okay, well then let's open this public hearing regarding our AEU and IADU amendment. If you could state your name and your address for the record.
You bet. My name is Stacy Young, and I reside at 364 West, 400 North in St. George.
Okay.
I'm a land use attorney and development director here in Southern Utah. I'm also the government affairs director for SUBA, and I'm here tonight more to talk about the water conservation measures later in the agenda, but thought I'd take this opportunity to comment on this since I'm here. I think it's absolutely wonderful that more and more communities, and now thanks to the state code as well, is opening the door to the ADU opportunity. Just a couple of data points for you. The Kim Gardner Policy Institute published a study last fall in which they studied the past 50 years of housing production across the state. You guys may be aware of it. For the 40 years from the 70s to the 2000s, statewide, we produced about 115 homes for every 100 new households that were formed. In the 2010s, we produced only 82 new homes for each of those 100 new residences. New households. And so you can see, this really puts price pressure. Certainly that trend was put in the microwave with COVID, especially here in Southern Utah, in terms of the supply-demand imbalance. And in particular, this is not an evenly felt shortage. Obviously, the more affordable end of the housing market is much harder to supply these days. In Washington County, over half of our households are 1 or 2 person households, and 30% have 1 car or no car at all. And that portion of our community has a very hard time having their housing needs met. And the ADU is a fantastic way to very gently and incrementally introduce a housing form that is a very good fit for a large segment of our community. So I really applaud you for moving forward on this, and really hope that you do everything you can to see some of that production happen in Santa Clara. Thank you.
Hey, Stacy, can I ask you a question? Hey, so I don't know if you remember me, but maybe a year ago, I actually came to you to talk about some downtown property.
Mm-hmm.
And he was super helpful in talking about some affordable housing options. But my concern, and I voiced this last time, was we're moving the setbacks kind of for some of these people with smaller yards. And we're taking away those setbacks to go, 8 and 12 in Santa Clara, and it's 10 in St. George. This doesn't pertain to St. George, but it will prevent some people from being able to do an ADU, which in my opinion helps them offset some of their mortgage because of the housing is getting so expensive, and it creates an opportunity for people to have a place to rent that's affordable. So my concern is that, if we do change those setbacks in the backyard, it will kind of limit some of the people that could do it, that would like to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, every community is going to have to find their comfort level. I do know that as other places, including across the West, California and elsewhere, have adopted ADU-friendly ordinances, many of the concerns that people have at the outset don't materialize. So some of the parking concerns and the sort of the change in the neighborhood character, a lot of that doesn't really materialize. And so, if you want to take it incrementally and see how it goes, I think that's great. But the more sort of welcoming you can be to this housing form, the better, in my opinion. So giving a little bit of latitude on setbacks and on height, I think is well warranted. I think it does still need to fit the scale of the primary residence and the neighborhood in which it sits. But certainly, it's very interesting in Vancouver, Canada. They have a lot of alleys, and in there they have 2- and 3-story ADUs along they call them lane homes, and that takes it a little bit to the extreme. But so some it's just a matter of getting used to it. But again, each town's going to have to figure out what it's comfortable with. But certainly, if it were me, I would err on the side of being slightly more permissive in terms of height and setbacks.
Thank you.
And just speaking to that, we want to be on top of it, and we feel like we are because we have the IADU. We're saying you have that option to do it in your house. And a lot of folks do that. There's a lot of IADUs in homes, basements, or other areas that they're not using in the home. This ADU is a great tool as well. So we're putting a code in place that allows for 2 tools to help address the gap, the affordable housing crisis that we're all dealing with, not all, but dealing with statewide, and it's all over. And I think, just the setbacks we've laid out are a good start, and we go with what we have, and then we take a look at it, down the line in a year or two. Should we allow a little more flexibility? But I think we are being pretty flexible with the ADU and the IADU that's on the books already. So we have both tools and options for people in our community to choose from. So
Is there an option for people to get a variance for that? Say we pass this ordinance and they have to
Sure.
go into that, but there's
they could apply for a variance, but
Maybe
they have to
there's
show a hardship.
neighbor support or.
Sure. I mean, we would take a look at that. You have to go through the process and meet state code for a variance, though. There's criteria that has to be met. You can't just apply for a variance if you don't have a hardship. So, but yeah, we could take a look at that. We believe that we'll get some in the front yard, some in some side yards, a lot of them in the backyard, because that's where people want to be, behind the primary residence, especially when we get, a 10,000 square foot lot or larger. I think a lot of them will be located behind the home. So 10 foot's pretty close. It's not a huge setback to a rear yard. And I like the flexibility because the hillsides and the natural features that we have in our community. A lot of communities have standard rear yard setbacks of 25 and 30 feet, and that's it. So we already have a bit of flexibility in our rear yard. So.
All right. Any other public comments? Anything online, Selena? Okay. Well, then I guess we'll close this public hearing. And then we would need to make a recommendation to the city council for adopting this new code.
Hey, Mark, before we do that, do you mind if I ask a couple questions?
I don't mind if you ask more than a couple.
Okay. I'm listening to this discussion about the height on that, on those. And I'm just thinking, like, if I were to build one, say in my backyard, and what we have in the ordinance is 20 feet right now. The truth is the way, speaking of scale and kind of perspective, if you're standing out on the sidewalk and my roof's 20 feet high and I have a 24-foot ADU behind it, it's probably going to look like it's about the same height as my house because it's behind my house, right? And I just think that if we, thinking about what Stacy said about being as permissive as we could be, there may be something for us to consider there, because later if somebody has one that's 22 feet or 21 feet, they're going to have to go get a variance and show the hardship and all those kinds of things, which becomes in and itself something of a burden. But that was just my comment about that. And the other thing is, I wonder if Jim or Stacy even have any idea about the number of accessory dwelling units that we've seen maybe in Washington County, because I think it's interesting. Sometimes we get really hung up about this, thinking like every house in our neighborhood is going to have an ADU, but I see relatively few of them in Santa Clara.
James, that's a good question. We would have to, that's something we could follow up with you at a later date. We could do some research and determine how many are in our community, Santa Clara, but it is a fear factor thing. I worked for Sandy City for 11 years and they've been allowed there for 20 plus years, ADUs.
Uh-huh.
And, a small guest house in the backyard, but most were in a basement. And that was the fear at one point. Neighbors would come out to the public hearing and say, because cities had originally identified them as conditional uses. And the code, House Bill 82 or the statute took that away last year, mandating that all cities allow them as permitted uses. So you can't do a conditional use and hold a public hearing and all of that. It's something that is required per state code. And it was a fear factor. And to be honest with you, I worked in Sandy, we'd get 10 or 12 a year, maybe, and a community of 90,000 people.
Sandy, I was gonna say Sandy's a bigger place than Santa Clara.
Correct, but just as reference. And then I worked in Murray, and we had a couple of years where we did a half dozen of people that came in and did them legally. And then we'd find 3 or 4 more based on complaint or code enforcement that they were illegal. And we'd send code out and they'd have to apply and go through the process. So again, Murray's a community closer to 50,000. Sandy's a community closer to 100,000. I'm sure people are utilizing this tool. The word is getting out. I was listening, it's been a number of months ago, last summer, to KSL radio one morning on the way into work, and they were offering loans for ADUs. So homeowners could get a loan to do an ADU in their home so they could rent. And sometimes it's a way, it could be a way to make a little bit of money, but a lot of times it's a way for folks that are on a set income who may be retired, whose kids have moved out to meet their needs as well, to subsidize their income. So it's a great tool, and I think we're doing good. We're beating a lot of other communities to the punch. I mean, some communities are doing it and doing it quickly. Others are just kind of taking their time and pushing back. And unfortunately, those are the communities that will be mentioned during the legislative session that starts next Tuesday. They'll bring them up as poster children. So, you need to follow what you're told to do, and we've done that here. And I think we're doing a good job, and we'll see them come out in the next year or two. We'll have more that we can point at. So,
Thank you.
I have a comment regarding to that, James. My business partner was on the planning commission in Sandy, David Calling,
okay.
for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually is the one that just built the new home in Kenta.
Okay.
So I had a chance to ask him about accessory because we were having a unique conversation about a mutual friend that was building a home
Sure.
in the area with an accessory dwelling for their parents. And he says, I thought it was going to be a nightmare. And Dave's very OCD. You think I'm OCD, guys? He's 10 times worse. It's zero. And he lives in one of the Prowswood subdivisions. I don't know which one, but
yeah.
So he was concerned about that. He thought, we're opening Pandora's box, and it was not.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying, Mark, is that there weren't as many as he thought, or they weren't as terrible as he thought?
No, he said there were not near. He thought they would be inundated with it.
No.
Okay.
Hurt.
But the great thing about them is you live there. So you're watching your neighbors, you're watching the people that live there. Like they're a very safe rental.
Right.
It's way better than a standalone rental as far as,
And it's a single family neighborhood. And
Drugs,
so-
I mean, you're there every day. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with
The
them.
obligation's better.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all. It's actually a good thing. There's a lot of, I do have quite a few rentals, and I see the need for housing right now. And that's why I think this is going to be a great tool for our kids or whoever that can't afford housing.
Well, I'm going to move in behind Mark in my son-in-law's garage.
Yeah.
That's 5
I'm
feet
will
from
have
the
to.
property line.
And Stacy, I did a little project downtown where what are the setbacks on that 400 north? Are they 5 feet or 3 feet for the houses? Right.
One side has to be 5 feet, but your overhang can be at 3 feet. So that's pretty narrow.
So they've done some things where they've made smaller lots so you can fit more houses in, makes it a little more affordable too. And has that bothered any of the neighbors or?
In marketing speak, I eat my own dog food. I really believe in this. So my lot is, I have a detached garage all the way in the back. I'm on a 45-foot wide lot, and subdivided a 132-foot wide lot into three narrow bungalow lots with a detached garage in the back. And I love it. And I've still got one house to build. The second one they're really happy with it as well. And the downside is it's relatively affordable when you factor in the transportation and everything, but it's still at the scale that I was doing, they were not super cheap homes by any means, but again, if you were able to do also an ADU in that kind of format, it would, again, very gently add a little bit of housing stock to an established neighborhood where you already have all the utilities connected and the roads, and so it's very, very, very good thing from a fiscal standpoint as well.
Where did you build those?
Sorry,
Where's your home built?
it's on 400 North in Sandtown in St. George.
I think I know.
Right off a couple of blocks off
Low
diagonal.
diagonal, yeah.
Yeah, you can't miss my house. It's the one with the bare metal roof.
Yeah, I think that's what I thought where it was. It occurred to my head where it might be.
Okay, anything else, James?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I believe I already closed the public hearing, didn't I? Okay,
No, Selena's saying no, so go ahead and do that.
well, then I will officially close the public hearing at 6:17 PM, Selena. All right, any other comments from the commission? Questions? I don't think so. I'm pretty good with it. I thought we did a great job on this. Congratulations to us. Okay, well then, I'm ready for a recommendation.
Yeah, I did the last one.
Don't all speak at once.
Okay, I guess I will. I move that we recommend to the city council the approval of the definition in 17.22.010 accessory dwelling unit, a separate dwelling unit located on a residentially zoned property that is clearly incidental and accessory to the primary dwelling on the property. In addition to the standards described in this section, ADUs must meet the standards described in section 10-9A-530 of the Utah Code.
Well done.
And
Second.
then section 1722.030, which is the accessory dwelling.
And then
unit.
17.22.030 to include the information as stated in the attached.
Okay,
I ain't reading all that.
okay,
Second.
okay. I have a first remark and a second from Shelley. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. I'm just opposing it, but it'll pass.
Okay. All right.
That's the beauty.
Only because of the
Beauty of this.
setbacks. Yeah,
I'm
that's
concerned
fine.
about setbacks.
I'm concerned about the setbacks.
Okay.
That would be interesting to see, Ryan, after this gets down the road a ways, if we
Yeah.
actually have that impact.
So then that motion carries with a 4-1 vote. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Discussion items.
Yeah, we have a couple discussion items tonight. We have Stacy here. I reached out to Mari and Mari has sent you. Is it Stacy Young? Okay, I'm going to give you a moment in just a minute. We've invited the Southern Utah Home Builders Association to attend and be part of this discussion. Stacy's here, as he indicated previously. So the city has a committee that's been actively working on a water efficient landscaping and conservation standards ordinance. As you know, the Washington County Water Conservancy District has been working on this for quite some time. They sent a model ordinance to communities in November. It was middle to late November, around Thanksgiving. Since that time, we've been working in a committee with different department heads. Dustin's part of that group and Cody's part of that group and I'm part of that group. And we have others as well as the city manager, the city attorney, and the mayor's been attending those as well. He's very active with the Water Conservancy District. He suggested that we reach out to the Southern Utah Home Builders Association to get their take on all of this because there are some requirements that they're going to have to step up to. It's our understanding that they're willing to do that. As far as fixtures and things of that nature, I don't have a draft to share with you tonight. We wanted to do that. We were trying to get it to that point. As of yesterday, as late as yesterday afternoon, Matt Entz was asked to go to a meeting that Zach Renstrom had put together with other city attorneys. And they had some additional discussion yesterday afternoon on some of these model ordinances. What I've been told as of today, this morning, is each city is going to be moving forward on their own adaptation of the model ordinance and moving forward with what is needed for each community. As we know, one size doesn't fit all, so there's going to be some slight deviation between communities. One of the things that was discussed at the meeting yesterday, and we've talked about this as well, is a percentage of a lot that could be in lawn and landscaping. And so some of the criteria that's been pushed out in the model ordinance, and I'll just mention that real briefly. And sorry, I was at a summit all day today, and so I came in for Planning Commission. And so basically what they're saying, the model ordinance is a little bit restrictive. And we had this conversation with Zach Renstrom just a couple of weeks ago about the percentages for a single family home or multifamily. Talks about total irrigated landscape area shall not exceed 2,500 square feet and lawn area shall not exceed 750 square feet. So that's a bit restrictive. So that's the landscape area of the lot where you may have drought tolerant plants that are dripped, but the lawn area is limited to 750 square feet. That's pretty small. You know, that's the whole lot. That's the front and the backyard, the lawn area. So that's what they're saying in the model ordinance. We've talked about a percentage. So if you had a 10,000 square foot lot, which we have a lot of R110 in the community, 20% of landscape, 20% of the lot could be in landscape area, with 10% being in lawn area. So for a 10,000 square foot lot, you could have 1,000 square foot of lawn area and 1,000 square foot of areas that are dripped, different plants and different things. And that, you know, those areas are pretty small because you have your desert scape, you don't have any lawn, and then you have a drip, and it's just basically the base of that plant. So it could be quite a bit of planter areas in your yard and next to the house if you have landscape curbing and things of that nature. And the reason I bring that up is we're looking at a sliding scale. So for a 10,000 square foot lot, you know, it's a little bit of lawn. For a half acre lot, if you go to 21,780, which is a half acre, that would be 2,178 square feet in lawn and 43,560 in landscape area. So it's a little bit more. So we're kind of looking at these numbers. We're feeling comfortable with the 10% and 20%. We also have people that have lots as big as an acre, you know, so looking at that. However, yesterday, Matt just forwarded me an email today after 4 p.m. He's working on my draft and some more revisions. But he said that Washington City presented an idea yesterday. And what they said, instead of the calculating the 10% and 20%, they were looking at just assigning a number to lot sizes. So for a 6,000 square foot lot or up to 6,000 square foot, let's say it's a PDR and we have some smaller lots, the maximum lawn is 750 square feet. For a lot up to 12,000 square feet, so the R110, the lawn area is 1,000 square feet. For a lot up to 18,000 square feet, which might be a lot size they have in their zoning, I don't know, 1,250 square feet. For a lot up to 24,000 square feet, which is larger than a half acre, 1,500 square feet, and then more than 24,000 square feet, 2,000 square feet of lawn. I don't know where those numbers come from. This was just shared by Washington City yesterday. So we could look at it with numbers like this, just assign a number to lot sizes, or we come up with a percentage. Myself, I kind of like the percentage that we're talking about, the 10 and 20%, but we could look at a number as well. We just want you to think about that because that's something that we're going to have to figure out here in the next month or two. As you know, the city has an ordinance in place, which gives us to March to adopt an ordinance to get something in place. If we're told different, that we have to pull back and not get something adopted, we'll do that, but I haven't been told that yet. Keep working on this. We'll have more meetings coming up this month and in February as well. One of the things that's come up a lot, Ben Shakespeare has been coming to some of our meetings too, as well. The mayor invited him to attend. And there's been a question, same question that Mark had about the recirculation system. We talked about that last time, that they can go out every few years. People would have to replace those. And then the installation of WaterSense label fixtures, installing Energy Star appliances, things of that nature. And I think Stacy can speak to that. And I want to give him a moment to do that, because it's neat that the Home Builders Association is involved and they realize the need, and they know that we have to do something if we want to keep building homes for future generations in the community. We have to do something to limit the water and allow for growth to occur. I mean, the growth is huge right now because there's such a boom, but things will slow down, but we still will have growth in the community for generations to come. So I wanted to give Stacy a moment, if the Planning Commission's okay with that, and let him speak to from a home builder's perspective.
I really appreciate the chance to be with you tonight and say a few words about this. And off the top, I do want to reinforce what Jim said. We absolutely applaud this effort and want to be part of that and supportive of that, broadly speaking. It's got to almost maybe just make sense to go almost point by point, a little bit of the bullet points that were put out during the water summit that was in, I think, December. So yeah, the efficient appliances, the WaterSense and Energy Star, by and large, that's what's being installed today anyway. We're very comfortable with that. Maybe should preface all this though by saying that we obviously always prefer public information and educational pushes to mandates. But that said, we recognize that putting some regulatory teeth behind some of this is important at this point. The hot water recirculation systems, those I think are worth the hassle of having to replace them and so forth. The amount of water that is saved by not waiting for your shower to heat up or whatever is significant. So that seemed to us one area where the juice kind of is worth the squeeze. So that's one that we would be supportive of. We also are very supportive of the countywide push to develop a parallel irrigation water system. One of the requirements would be to install second meters, obviously, during the process of development. I think our main ask would be that in the implementation of that, we can sort of do that in a common sense way. I can give you an example. Involved in the development of the Ledges area, and St. George has a plan to get reuse water to that part of the city, but their tank size is only going to allow them to serve a certain portion of it. And so they had already adopted the requirement that we install the second meter. As we were bringing plans in, and initially staff was requiring that second meter. When we sat down and looked at them, these were the fourth and fifth phases of projects that had 3 phases before them. And so we sat down with them and looked at the capacity there and whether it made sense to put them in these phases where where we didn't have that in the first phases versus jumping out once we got to the next collector road. Made more sense to only implement it there because they were only going to have capacity for a finite amount of the property up there. So that's just one example to say, hopefully we can, whether it's on a kind of a macro level or builder by builder or developer by developer, work through those issues of implementation in a common sense way so that we're not installing a second meter in a place where there's no sort of realistic future for the secondary water to be charged. One thing that's come up are requiring automatic pool covers. That's one that we don't think the benefit is worth the cost. And it's not only the cost in financial terms, but the reality is in the summer, your pool gets so hot with the cover closed that people leave them open anyway. There also are good alternatives in the form of safety covers and so forth. That achieve the same thing for much lower cost, and so that's one that we do oppose that mandate. Something that we do oppose. that is one where we think education is really important. I think if most people understand the water loss from evaporation, that's something that they absolutely will take into account as they're installing their own pool. We also were in favor of using more the pricing mechanism to allow people to make better water choices, so that heavier water users are feeling the weight of that relative to people that are using less water. And then last, I do think this is the item that has sort of elicited the most discussion. That's the turf, the maximum turf requirement. I would say for us, we're much more comfortable with something that is pegged to the lot size, whether it's a percentage or a tier format. That seems to make a lot more sense to us than a fixed number. Sort of as an aside, I've spent a fair number of hours sort of researching other communities across the Southwest, and I found very, very few of the conservation measures adopted into ordinance in other towns. And that's not to say that we shouldn't. It's to say that I really hope that as we do this, we also promote our good works with this. I feel like a lot of times especially in the more national press, we get clobbered in Utah as water wasters, when I don't think that's the reality, especially if you adjust for the way that the water use is measured. Las Vegas does have a turf maximum. Theirs is they don't allow any in the front yard, and then it's 50% of the side and rear yards, up to a maximum of 5,000 square feet. So a community that's often held up as, some of the most tight-fisted in terms of their water use, that actually has, to me, a more permissive turf maximum than what we're contemplating here. Again, that's not to say that we shouldn't adopt something along the lines of what's being floated. I think that it feels like a pretty good level that we're finding there. I think we had proposed an 18% of the lot size as a kind of a rough guideline, but as you work through the details of that, that's kind of where we're coming from there.
So Stacy, just briefly, you like the idea of a percentage rather than just a number, like Washington City was talking about, like this number up to 6,000, this number up to 12,000, like a 10%, 20%, or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
Okay.
The tiering is not bad. The way I heard you describe what Washington's thinking, and it probably does make sense to have a cap at some point.
Right.
But yeah, I think a percentage is relatively easy to apply, and I also don't really see the point or wisdom of Las Vegas's stipulation of nothing in the front yard. To me, if the turf is turf, it doesn't seem to me to matter if it's in the front yard or back. But yeah, I think that's more the direction that we'd like to see.
And I think there's really a change to this. And I know I've said it a few times, but my wife and I just moved in the area a few months ago, and we ended up getting a home, and they did some lawn in the front and some lawn in the back. And it's probably 1,000 square feet between the two. It's not very big, but it's nice to have both.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have something in the front.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Agreed. And we're in conversation, as you guys are, with Zach all the time, and he's very open to good ideas from wherever they come, and we really hope to be the source of some of those ideas and be good community partners in this process of stretching our water as far as we can. We do know that candidly today, new construction is far more water wise than older construction for all sorts of reasons, the landscaping principally, but even the more efficient appliances and so forth that are commonly installed now. So that's, I think, another thing that we hope is examined through this is trying to bend the curve on the higher water users. As I was going through those, trying to compare some of the conservations and other conservation measures in other places. One thing that did jump out to me in Las Vegas is they are quite restrictive with golf courses. They only allow in the city, I think it's up to 100 acres of turf for an 18-hole golf course. So I think it was something like, what is that? It was here I think we're typically going to be more around 140, 150 acres of grass for golf courses, and it's water that you can't recycle. As we build out our reclaimed water system, that's not one of the sources for that. So.
And that's a good question too, Stacy, because here in the model ordinance, it says irrigated golf course with reuse water is what they're talking about. Irrigation with potable water is prohibited.
Yeah. And I think the Conservancy District is really taking an all of the above approach to it for sure. And we applaud that.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that they'd already required the golf courses, any future golf course development be a reused water, but have a certain, it's a significant amount of reuse. And, you play on some of these courses, the signs say this is, don't drink the water out of it.
Yeah.
So is that not the case? Am I misunderstanding that?
No, they are.
Majority of them already are.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
many.
what I thought.
Yeah, the majority are. I think even that water source, though, I think you'd still want to manage it carefully and potentially have them on a water
You want to
budget.
don't be excessive. I know like you mentioned the ledges, they use wells to water the course. Up there.
Correct. Yep.
So that's all privately held water, and that's a little different than. Okay.
Do these rules apply if you have secondary water, or is that out the window?
My understanding is that they still do. Yeah. So you'd still have the turf maximum even with the.
Don't you have secondary water on your property right here?
I do.
We have secondary water across the street on ours. I mean,
Yeah, we have some areas as well where we have secondary in place, and Dustin's familiar with those. We were talking about one last night, Regal Homes at Black Desert. They're going to have to tie into secondary. So.
And I think the last thing I would say is ultimately one thing that we think would be helpful is, like I alluded to, potentially some sort of alliance so that we are getting out the word of what we're doing. And it's something that a lot of builders, frankly, would like to have a simple tear sheet to hand to their buyers as they move into town. That's a lot of times it's a question they have. If they're longtime residents, they don't have that question as much, but that's actually a common request that we get is, be possible to generate something to help people understand our water situation here and what we're doing to try to be good stewards of that resource.
Hey, in the parade, are they doing any, the new parade of homes? Are they doing any are they going by these rules by any chance, or do you know, have they not really? Just for some good examples of.
That's a good question. I think as of today, it's fairly variable. But the truth is today, I would say the majority of new construction is pretty compliant with these ordinances already. And that's why I think it makes it a little bit easier for us to be supportive is frankly, most new construction is this way. It is zero escaped and
I think it's going to be dictated by the community building. I mean, interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that an affirmative thing I think we really hope that we also get the word out is this doesn't mean don't plant trees. In fact, trees and more trees, I think is still a great mantra, to keep things green and cooler and all the rest of it. Any other questions or?
Okay. I don't think so. Thank you.
I had one just, you talked about different, like Las Vegas and the different things. Is there a poster child for this? Are you guys aware in your expertise? We've got people from all over now. I mean, is there a poster child for this that has got the best success or seen the best success that we can look at? You play this game, Mark.
I play this game. Actually, there was a really interesting, do you remember about 10, 12 years ago, Vegas was paying people to take to take
their yard
grass out. And then I read a case study on what was called the heat island effect, in which case when they take away too much greenery, it creates heat, and then everybody turns their air conditioning up, and the amount of power that was required took more water than what they were saving. And so it was this catch-22 that they found themselves in. And so they got away from trying to get everybody to take their grass out. They were actually paying people to take grass out. And so there's a happy medium, right? Of trees are great because they provide shade, which keeps your houses cooler. And it provides that green that everybody kind of wants to see. And so, again, there's a happy medium.
The trees, the plants, the bushes, some grow quite high, putting things around your home and around your AC unit and that kind of thing, I think is really helpful.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Another,
Taking grass and trees out is not the answer, just especially trees in a downtown area. In Vegas, it's interesting, Mark. I don't go a lot, but I've never been, I've been in hot places, but it is so hot there. You can see the heat rising from the asphalt parking lots. When you go into a casino, it's just amazing how hot it can be. So
yeah,
I would agree. I think Las Vegas is the best in class in terms of being restrictive, but actually, I think prove that you can't go too far with it, and it can have a counterproductive, unintended consequences. I think the other really subtle thing that factors into the heat island stuff is parking lots. Obviously, Las Vegas has enormous parking lots all over the place, and even if you have planter trees dotted throughout, that's still a source of a lot of heat.
Black.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's why all the public buildings should have like parking structures. So not only do you keep your
right.
car cooler, but it'll keep the asphalt cool, and then you put solar on top of it.
Parking structures are very nice. When you work somewhere in the middle of summer and you can park in there and you come out and your car hasn't been in the sun all day, they are nice. It's just very expensive as well.
Well,
They
interestingly
do,
enough,
yeah.
Las Vegas is requiring more parking structures. We're taking the old
Yeah,
post office building at 205 South Las Vegas Boulevard. We're repurposing that building right now and one of the development projects that we're doing and expanding our businesses there. And they required us. So we've had to build on to the existing parking structure because they required a parking structure for that. They didn't want it. We had the ability to do the parking lot and accommodate what was required. They required us because it was a new developed building to do a parking structure.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, that stuff's not cheap.
I did a proposal for SkyWest to cover, I want to say it was 80 parking stalls. And they wanted to put solar on the top,
Mhm.
and it would have cut their air conditioning bill. Okay, so what the problem that they had was they've got this air conditioning exploding all day, and these women and people and men and everybody's in these places that are sitting underneath these air conditioners that are blowing,
And then they're running heaters.
and they have a heater underneath their desk to keep their cold.
Those are my clients, by the way.
and so they were trying anything they could come up with, and so we did a proposal for them, but ultimately it was just flat out too much money that they didn't want to pay for. So, but yeah, it's a great idea.
Well, I wholeheartedly believe we've got to do something. Or there won't be water for our grandkids.
Yeah. All right.
we'll be bringing this back to you. Again, it was a discussion item and we're working in a committee and there'll be more meetings. And we'll talk about that here in a moment as well. Dustin, did you have anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
You covered it pretty well.
Okay, I refer to Dustin a lot. He's been here a long time and understands this stuff better than I do. Cody, he's involved as well. Do you have anything you'd like to add at this point? Okay, thank you. So we'll be talking about this again soon. So
Great.
My 2 cents, I think percentage is your wisest move.
okay,
It's easier to enforce.
Right.
It's unilateral to all parties.
Mhm.
that's good to hear because I agree. I was getting some push, like maybe we should do something like this, but I like the percentages.
No, I think if you dictate,
Right,
you're taking away some opportunity there.
right.
But if I'm trying to get my wife to let me tear grass out, but she won't because of the grandkids. But
Yeah,
the day will come, right? But
you do the sports turf. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of that out in the community now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
our neighbors just put it in. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Right.
well, it's good to hear that perspective. I appreciate that, Stacy. I'll share that with our group. That the feedback is a percentage is preferred versus the other way of doing it. So thank you. One other item I'd like to discuss with the Planning Commission tonight. It's Chapter 1712 Planning Commission. So we're looking to make a few changes to the chapter, to the language itself, and I'll start with that. In 1712, under 1712-040, it talks about compensation. And it currently says the members of the
Thank you,
Land Use
Stacy.
Authority Planning Commission shall serve without compensation. And so I've been talking to the mayor and the city manager and the city attorney and others that I report to. They're looking to provide compensation or a stipend to planning commission members. It's pretty common. Other places I've worked, they've provided $25 a meeting, $40 a meeting, $50 a meeting. It just depends on the jurisdiction and what's determined. That's still being discussed, so I can't give you the number of the stipend tonight, but I will be able to give you that the next time we meet. So in an amount set by the city council for meetings attended. So the way I've seen this work before in other jurisdictions I've worked for, and it's been the same every 3 months, a check goes out and it's to each planning commission member and it's based on your attendance. So it's $50 a meeting if there were 9 meetings in that 3-month period, not 9, but 6 meetings in that 3-month period, at meeting twice a month, you would get, the full benefit. So we're looking at that to provide a compensation. Also, under offices and authority, changing the language a little bit in 1712-050, it says the Land Use Authority Planning Commission shall elect a chairman and chair pro tem from among its members. So what we're saying is, and the language I'm familiar with, and I talked to Matt about this, shall elect a chair and vice chair. So rather than the chair pro tem, so we have a chair and vice chair from among its members yearly. The election of the chair and vice chair will occur during the first regularly scheduled planning commission meeting each year. Now that would be this meeting, but this has not been put in place yet. And we still have to talk to the council about it, but this is language we've been working on. And there's not a limitation on terms. Right now, we were looking at, let's see. The elected chair will not serve more than 2 one-year terms before rotation of the chair to another member. We talked about that. Matt and I decided along with the mayor to take that out. So if a chair wants to serve for a couple of years in a row and other planning commissioners want to vote for that person to serve, that's fine.
I think it's good to have the knowledge.
Yes, agreed. And then the vice chair. So it would just be an election among the members. You could talk amongst yourselves before the meeting or during the meeting. And then we had this happen one time earlier this year, back in November, and we wanted to address it in the language. It talks about a quorum for a vote, which is 4 members. But then it says if the chair or vice chair is not present, a temporary chair shall serve. So what happens is that person, according to Matt, would be elected by the members there that evening, right at the beginning of the meeting, to have that temporary chair serve for that evening. So just cleaning up that language. And then powers and duties, 1712-090, just kind of cleaning it up. There's some old verbiage in here, just kind of cleaning up, zoning map amendments, general plan amendments, ordinance amendments, just general cleanup, because there's some older language in there. And then that leads us to the big item of the night. So I've had a chance to discuss with the mayor and the city manager and the city attorney, and they've talked about moving planning commission for a while to 2 meetings a month. So we currently have 1 meeting a month. They would be looking at doing 2 meetings a month. We are starting to get a lot of projects in. We want to have time to do work meetings and discussions with you, not just bring you items and say, here it is. And we have some big projects in the works in the pipeline right now. You've all heard about Black Desert. We had Regal Homes on just last night with the council. They came to you in November of 2020, and then they went to the council for some other things. But the development agreement was just recorded in October. So I got to meet Mr. Rose and the group the day after it was recorded. They were excited it was recorded and ready to go. So we had a work meeting with the council on December 1st. We've had multiple TRC meetings to get things to where they need to be. And then it went to the council last night for its zone amendment and limited conditional use, because they brought the number of short-term rentals down. The planning commission had recommended up to 40, but they actually decided they were just going to have a very few, just 4 out of 199 units. And then they would provide a little bit of boat and RV parking. So That's in the works. That will be coming back for a subdivision plat and a site plan. Because they're not subdividing. They're patio homes, 750 to 950 square feet. Regal Homes will own the entire site and rent 6-month leases, 12-month leases for people there. So not short-term rentals, just a total of 4 units. Kind of an amenity. The idea is if someone has parents or a family member that wants to come to the area for a few days, they could use one of the short-term rentals. So we have that one in the works. We have the point at Entrada, which is the assisted living and single family homes up off of Pioneer Parkway, which is a really big project that'll be coming back to you. We just got word from Robert Smith that he got the approval from Utah Housing for the tax credits for Quail Crossing at Desert's Edge. And so that's the project on the north end of town, 119 townhomes and 120 apartments. All 120 units are going to be at 30 to 50% of AMI for the area. So, which is pretty unique that they're going to do the entire apartment project as affordable housing, but then they're going to share the amenity package that's in the middle or center of the project. So not separating those. Silverado, we've had a lot of discussions with them recently, and they just came to a council work meeting last week. Big project. They're going to go from PDR to PDC, which is the planned development commercial, and do mixed use. So they're looking to do commercial along Pioneer Parkway, some apartments behind Pioneer Parkway.
So will that be anchored with their recreational facility in the front?
Yes.
Isn't that the concept?
And the
of that one?
pickleball. So something like a chicken and pickle,
Yeah.
that's in Kansas City and Texas. It's not going to be chicken. It would be something very similar. But the thing that's going to be really cool about it is they're looking at it's either 32 or 33 pickleball courts. So 23 in an indoor facility and 10 outside. And then the outdoor areas for kids to, play, different games and the chicken and pickle as well. They talked about with the council last week offering that to residents that live in the apartments as one of, they're going to do a pool and a clubhouse type of thing, but people that would live in the apartments would have access to that amenity. And then the man caves or she sheds in the back, they're going to do 28 of those. Those are going to include 1-bedroom studio apartments. They're 2,400 square feet. So those will be looked at as dwelling units as well. And so a lot of people may buy those. Others, if you've got a little bit of money and you got toys and you get kicked out for the weekend, you got somewhere to go, right? But I think some people are going to buy those and live in them. And so we'll have dwelling units there. So there's 4 different layers of that development, and we'll have to do a development agreement, and we're going to have to do subdivision plats and site plan reviews. So it's picking up and we're seeing it. I mean, just those projects I talked about is 534 units being proposed in the community that we could go through the process of getting approved in the next several months, just in those projects. So that's a lot of units. And most of those are multifamily units for the most part. So just letting you know, and right now what we're talking about, it would be the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month. So
Jim, do you mind if I make a couple comments about those, right? So personally, I would rather not get any money. I mean, if you guys were going to be paying us $1,000 or $10,000 a meeting, then that might be interesting. But for $25 or $50 or whatever the math is on that, I'd rather not have the conflict of interest, because we have done enough public hearings and stuff like that where people have even made the comment, well, you guys are getting paid to do this and stuff. To me, there's something just kind of pure about being a volunteer doing this. And I personally would prefer to do that than get some token compensation. If I needed the money, I can go fold boxes at Pizza Hut and make more than that. And so that's my comment about that. And then I also think about the twice a month. Along with that, I don't think we're going to be able to do twice a month. That puts a big burden on, I think, on the planning commission, because we have so many things in our personal lives that are going on. And if you go back and look at, it seems like every year we miss maybe a couple meetings or 2 or 3 meetings that we just don't have because we can't get a quorum together. because people are busy or out of town or whatever. And so I understand that those are 500, project units in those projects or whatever, but I mean, really, they come to us, we do it in one night, and then they're kind of gone. I personally would prefer no money and once a month. That's just my 2 cents on that while we're discussing it.
And let me speak to that briefly. So there are months where there would just be one meeting, and there are times where we're not going to meet just to meet. If we don't have any items, then we'll cancel the meeting. But during the month of November, we would have one meeting. During the month of December, we would have one meeting. During the month of July, we would have one meeting because of the 4th of July and 24th of July holidays. So that's 3 months out of 9 where we would have one meeting. And then other times we would cancel if we don't have any items. And that's very common up and down the wall.
But sometimes if you go back and look at the minutes, we've actually had some meetings where the items really weren't that critical. You know what I'm saying? It's like if somebody has I'd have to go back and look through all the minutes, but it seems like we've had 1 or 2 where we just kind of walk in, it's the, amended lot lines or whatever it is, and we walk away from it. I mean, there's some of those things I just wonder if it's, if we already know that meeting's scheduled, that time's going to be filled up. And I guess I have a huge aversion to meetings in the first place, but I don't.
Jim, you come by Zoom meeting anyway. When was the last time you were here in person?
I've been there a couple months ago, I guess.
Well,
I mean, if everybody wants to do it, it's fine. I don't care. But I'm just saying, I don't.
Coming from, but at the same time, we've made a commitment to this as the community. My schedule's a nightmare. You have no idea comparison wise, but I feel an obligation to be here. So I don't agree with your position on the 2 meetings, especially given the explanation that Ms. McNulty is. If you're that uptight about 2 meetings, maybe it's time for you to move on.
Okay, that's cool, Mark. I mean, you're welcome to your opinion. I appreciate that.
Sorry, I just don't recall the time you've been here in person in the last year.
Okay, well, and that's your prerogative. I've been there when you haven't been there too, Mark, so it's all good, brother.
Same things you're doing, but you can't even be here in person.
All right, we don't need to do that.
Sorry.
We don't need to do that. I obviously see, from my job, sometimes 2 meetings would be nice, where you get all your paperwork together and you realize you got to wait 4 weeks because you just missed the deadline.
Yes.
And time is money in business.
Yeah, and part of it's that as well, so we can process applications timely in a timely manner.
So, I mean, as long as I think we're being smart about, whether it can be pushed off to try to, save a meeting.
We're probably going to have at least half a dozen or more that'll be canceled during the course of the year, but when we need 2 meetings, we'll have them. So that's the thought.
I could see a need for it just from a business standpoint of who's coming to see us and what they need.
It's all relative to their cost too.
And the cost of things. So I can see both. I mean, do I love it? Do I love more meetings? No. Will I do it? If it's needful, I will.
I would say that
Thank
more
you.
meetings would be very helpful,
Okay.
especially because you know what needs to be done. So
I'm
Yeah.
in the camp of, I don't love it, but I will.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments, Ryan?
No, I agree that as a developer or builder, it is nice to have 2-week wait instead of a month wait. So I see the need for it. And I also understand that if we can't be there, not everyone's here every week. So if there is a chance that we can't come, there's opportunities for other people to
I've
fill
had
in
my share of challenges with
and
personnel
and do that. And as far as the compensation goes, I don't see a need for it as well, but maybe that's not true with everybody,
Well, my position on the compensation is if you're going to give me that compensation, I'm just going to turn it back and donate it back to the city.
Okay. It's.
I know that I know the purpose. I see the purpose.
Right.
But I don't do this for the money. I do this to serve my community.
Most communities do have that, but I completely understand your perspective. So,
Yeah, maybe you give us the option to take the money.
okay.
Yeah, right.
Because maybe some months I need some chips and drink money.
Be nice. Date money, right?
You compensate your wife for her having to pick up all the slack when you're here.
That's a good point.
Or husband. Sorry, Shelley.
Yeah, but ultimately, yeah, whatever it is, it doesn't change my life.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else, Commission? James, anything?
No, sir.
I can see you, sometimes if I look over here, I can see that you're shaking your head. Whoops. Okay. All right, well, with that, we need to approve the minutes from last month. And then we can adjourn.
I move to approve the minutes as presented from December 9th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Excellent.
I'll second that.
Got a first from Shelley and a second from Ryan, all in favor.
Aye.
Okay, and we will be adjourned until February.
Yes, our next meeting will be the meeting in February, which I believe is the 12th or 13th.
Well,
Well, isn't it?
And more to come. We'll discuss this again at that meeting. So
very good.
So would you set it up so that you would have like, one would be more of a working meeting and then the other one would be more of a, where you'd have the public hearings or?
we've talked about that and they want to leave the flexibility open for both meetings to
Makes
do
sense.
both.
Waiting.
Right. With the council, they have that work meeting once a month and then two other meetings a month for public items. So I think we just want to keep it open. We may have meetings because we're looking at doing a lot of ordinance updates where that's what we're talking about. And then other meetings that it could just be all